Hi. Are you enjoying yourself? Are you managing to have fun even when things don't go your way or the way you think you want them with that 10% of your mind that you have conscious access to? Well, next week is summer solstice, June 21st. And I don't remember exactly what it is, but there are also astrological happenings of some sort on the 20th and the 22nd, I believe. I'll go ahead and put another link to the June astrological presentation, the one from Star IQ Guys that I like to watch each month. And it's a four-parter, and you'll find the explanation in there. I'm a little fuzzy on it and don't feel like going back through it right now just to find out some mental mathematical detail. If you're interested, you can find it out. I'm saying that because I think it won't come as a big surprise if next week we get an energetic whammy again. Of what kind? Clueless. I don't know. I just know that it seems to run in cycles. Often it seems like we have maybe 4 or 5 days of a break, and then something else comes along. And it's been a pretty wild and wacky 2012 so far, energetically. I don't really know what I want to say. One thing is that I'm feeling really good energetically and emotionally. I mean, I'm not even feeling separated out enough to look at myself separately, like separate emotions and thoughts and body, and I'm just feeling whole much more. And I seem to have kitty cat fur or something bothering me, so I apologize. Unpleasant tickles. I have a couple of, when I come across a quote that I like, I'll write it down. And so I have a couple or three that have been stacking up that maybe I'll share. I don't know if it's original with him, but Dr. Wayne Dyer, I watched him with Lilu, the Juicy Living lady from France, and he was talking about his leukemia and the healing that he got through John of God. He said, "You don't get what you want, you get what you are." How's that for deep? I think it's so wonderful when really deep things, that I might go on for a page or two about, are summed up in a line like that. So that life is reflecting us back to ourself. It really is. I'm finding this everywhere. So many people have said it and are saying it. We get what we are. So to bring change, don't try to change someone else or something else. Change yourself. And as we all do that, tipping point, here we go. Mellen-Thomas, when he came back from his massive NDE, of course he goes back into the light every day, so I'm not sure exactly when he got this bit of information, but I know that I've read where he said the NDE itself, he was shown how it would become such a big thing that it would be a major influencer of consciousness, that it would really grow. It's done that. It has truly done that. And it's helping us push the tipping point. And so more and more people, because it's like they say, you don't actually have to nearly die to get it. It's just so, now that's interesting, that bell in the other room going off. I have a little set of chimes hanging from a ceiling fan in there, and the ceiling fan's not really going fast enough to make them ring. Nothing happens by accident. We get what we are. And we don't have to put any effort into it. I find that to be totally amazing. I mean, it's enough to deck you. If you're in the typical 3D human doing consciousness, and you hear, you don't have to put any effort out. Effort is counterproductive. And the mind just flips and has fits and says, how can that be? I don't know, but it is. It's being. Now, how hard is it to be? How hard is it for the heart to beat? How hard is it for the sun to shine? We, my friends, are much more like suns than we are like these mythical things we've ginned up called people. We're not people. No such thing. And all this advancement that we want, this enlightenment, this awakening, I think if we can drop all of our mental concepts around that, we'll be much better off. Because it tempts us to put out effort to try to attain, when it's just what we are. And it's been clouded over with the patina of the ages, of the programming, of the thoughts, of the efforts, of the everything, you know? And so, but it's under there, it's in there, it's just covered over. And so, like the hot air balloon, we've got to drop the sandbags in order to get any kind of altitude. We've got to drop the ideas. We've got to drop how we think everything is and works. We've got to drop what we think reality is. We've got to adopt a far more flexible perspective on life and on everything. Everything. What's another one? I just did one on the Nancy Dennison quote, but it's really good, so I'll repeat it from her backwards, returning to our source for answers. Relax and trust yourself. Accept that you may not know while in the body just what you are trying to accomplish here. Oh, what a big line. Then all you have to do is open the gift of the unknown before you and enter into the joy of being human. Oh, friends. Wow. And finally, here's a line from the Tibetan Book of the Dead that I wrote down. And I'll give links for each one of these where I got it. Unless we can let go of all the things we cherished in our life, we are terrified. Now this would be when we cross over. More of letting go, dropping the sandbags. When the hot air balloon, the sandbags are dropped, gaining altitude is natural. It requires no effort. The sun isn't going, I got to put out the rays. It just shines because it's just natural. Will you shine too? I'm finding that out because I'm seeing it in myself. Finally, letting go of the effort and just watching the self, coming to love, respect, and even revere the self. And you just begin to see all these things. It's spooky, and it's awesome. I suspect every bit of it. It's been there all along. But we were so deep in the Maya, so deep in the dark age we've been going through, the miasma that's been kind of pasted over everything, that it hypnotized us. It drugged us into sheepleville, you know? And sleeple is the next stage up from sheeple, because sleeple might be kind of dozing along, but they're not so easily led. And I think that's a real mark of the light beings that are here, the advanced guard, that are pushing this through, so that the young ones that are coming up behind us have the way cleared to a certain extent. You know, there's a certain amount of waking up that's been done that's worthy of these beautiful souls coming in, and just with a light touch, they will accomplish much. So much. And we're all one. I figured a lot out about karma too. Karma is one of those red flag words that's maybe best not to use too often, because people have all different kinds of meanings around it, just like the word God. So I'll share mine. It's cause and effect, that's all. It's just cause and effect. It's what goes around comes around. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. To me, that's karma. It's a physics thing. It's not some vengeful God, you know, cracking a whip saying thou shalt and thou shalt not. None of that. None of that whatsoever. It's not even necessary to believe in a God. It's really not. It just is. Everything just is what it is. And the words we use are labels. Labels are used to separate things out. And we've turned back around now, and we're going back home to source. And so we'll find less and less use of words and labels, because those are the things used to separate us out, to distinguish things. While they're still useful, that's great. But a word like karma, if we can make it neutral and have no color either way. Nancy Dennison says she doesn't believe that karma exists, but I also was reading in some of the comment threads, and I think she had a distinctively different definition of karma. So then you don't know what's meant by what was said, because we use the same words and we have different meanings, and so we can't make any assumptions around that. But it's her understanding that we don't carry anything over from one lifetime to another. And maybe we don't. Let's be open to anything. All right? But right now, the way I see it is that we do, but not in any way, shape, or form for a punishment, not for a judgment, not for anything negative at all. If, just as an example, I was a cruel slave master in one life, I will choose to come back as a slave and receive some of the treatment that I dished out in order to soften and open my heart. It's a blessing. It's not a cruelty. And the soul doesn't come into anything it doesn't choose to come into. Now, once we get in here, it doesn't look like that. we forget so much. It's like Nancy said, while except that you may not know while in the body just what it is you're trying to accomplish here. We forget. But if we can just remember that we have access to all of 10% of our mind, and that the 90% of it is subconscious, unconscious, and superconscious, then even of our mind, the bulk of it is inaccessible in the normal conscious beta wave state, beta brainwave state. So it could well be that we wouldn't have access to something consciously that we had chosen at other levels of our being, not to mention the soul, the higher self, that kind of thing. So we need to get rid of this idea that the way we look at things is right. The way we look at things is the way we look at things. That's all. It's just what it is. This whole concept of right and wrong is a judgment. And one day soon, I see it bubbling around inside in my heart. This whole thing about right and wrong and the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the whole Adam and Eve scene. I know I've written about that before, but I'm beginning to see more and more that it was talking about the mind and coming into 3D and taking on the mind and the brain that would then judge things as right and wrong when they are not. If you'll stay in heart, you'll understand this. If you try to understand this in mind, 100% chance you'll make a mistake, a big mistake. Mind is the problem. You don't use the problem to try to find a solution. In this instance, mind is the problem. For this kind of a thing, mind just isn't the right tool. And yet, we're left brain addicts, aren't we? Who among us can say we spend most of our time in the right brain or in the heart? I'm moving in that direction. Okay? And to me also, I equate mind, ego, and 3D. To me, they're different ways of saying the same thing. It might be that without mind, this thing that does the right, wrong, yes, no deal, we couldn't have this experience, this illusion that looks so very real. We wouldn't be collapsing the wave and having things be particles. Without the brain, without the mind, maybe they would stay in the wave state. And so maybe brain and mind were the price that was paid in order to have this adventure. Who knows? Huh? What do you think of the idea that there is no right and wrong on a higher level? That beauty and everything else is truly in the eye of the beholder. You know that you can have 20 people witness an accident and you'll get 20 reports. 20 people witness a fight and you'll get 20 different ideas about what caused it, who was right, who was wrong, who did what, who said what. We create our own reality. Now, a big part of it is also the mass mind. So a big part of our creation is done together, which is necessary. We need the reality to be stable. And so we've made agreements. Trees will be trees, earth will be earth, sun will be sun, and these things won't kind of blend and merge into each other while we're here. But other than that, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. And I have to say, it's one of the most empowering things I've ever heard, because it puts 100% of the power right back in our hands. We're in charge of us. See you again soon.